The Buffalo Bills are coming off another impressive victory over the Jacksonville Jaguars, and their reward is going to be the toughest matchup that they have faced so far this season, as they will be traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens and Lamar Jackson, who got their first win of the season in Dallas. It's going to be a great Week 4 matchup. Ryan and I, we're going to break down the game between the Bills and the Ravens, the matchup that you need to watch within the game itself, and at the very end of the video, provide our predictions. But before we get into that, we have a goal of getting 100 new subscribers to the Tracy Take during this Week 4 prediction video series, and any help is greatly appreciated. So if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Leave a like and a comment. Let us know who you think is going to win this game and why. And so, Ryan, I think I kind of mentioned it there in the beginning, is the Bills have looked dominant. To me, I think they've looked at like probably one of the more dominant teams in the league. Maybe the Vikings, shockingly, actually might be one of the other teams there, because there's 5 teams that are undefeated. But those 2 teams, to me, I think are the ones that have won in pretty convincing fashion, I think, throughout a majority of their game, through their 3 games overall. Bills, most definitely. That being said, though, they played an up-and-coming Cardinals team in Week 1. Where they didn't also really utilize Marvin Harrison Jr. to the best of their capabilities. So that would have been interesting. Miami team that just looks absolutely disheveled, even when Tua was in, but then Tua got hurt. And then they played a Jacksonville Jaguars team who looked like they just did not look good at all. And they are dealing with some injuries, to be completely fair to the Jags. But and I say that not to take anything away from the Bills. They have looked amazing. I love their absolute balance that they've had on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they are just getting after the quarterback and are just constantly pressuring the opposing teams as well. So all credit goes to them. They're one of the best teams in the league. Something that I did also say in the offseason. I just want to just point that out there. But this is going to be their toughest test, going up against Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry and this Baltimore Ravens team. They've definitely found something, or maybe to the Cowboys defense also just sucks ass. So sorry, and I know we try and keep this as family friendly, but it's true. But Derrick Henry had a dominant day as well. So I kind of want to throw it over you. My question is, what do you think of both of these 2 teams going into this matchup here, and how much weight do you want to carry now for the Ravens team with their first one of the season going over the Cowboys? Are they playing up to form as we expect now, or is it or is there still some stuff left to be desired?
I will answer that in a second. I'm going to start with the Bills, because I think the Bills, I had some questions, especially after Week 1. I felt Arizona left some plays on the table. Week 2 was kind of hard to tell because they played a completely dismantled Miami Dolphins team, who at the end of the game had no interest in being there. And they kicked the crap out of them for 4 straight quarters. But for the last quarter and a half, Miami just had no interest in playing. And so it was kind of hard to tell. And I thought Jacksonville was a pretty good team going into this Monday night game. And they just walloped them from start to finish. Looking back on it, I do think it was a good matchup for the Bills. This Jags team, weaker secondary, good pass rush in the front 7, but not the best run-stopping pass rush, or not the best run-stopping front 7. So like interesting kind of balance there. The Bills were able to control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball. This offensive line was pretty banged up. Anton Harrison went out with a knee injury for the Jaguars in this game. Trevor Lawrence was constantly under fire. But this Bills defense, despite some of the losses they had in free agency, I think looks solid. And this offense looks very good in this downhill run game. The big thing for me is they're not making the same mistakes that they were making early on last year. They had that kind of a slow start in 2023 because Josh Allen had a lot of turnovers, and they're starting cleaner this year. And I think that is a big reason why this offense, it looks so much more explosive. And to kind of get into the Ravens is like, there's still a lot left to be desired for me from this Ravens offense. With Derrick Henry, I think they finally did a good job of getting him enough touches in that Dallas Cowboys game. I think they're definitely going to need to have a heavy dose of Derrick Henry in this Bills game. But I still haven't seen them string together 60 minutes of good football. Like they had spurts in the Kansas City game. They played good for the first 3 quarters of the Raiders game, and they played well for the first 3 quarters of this Cowboys game. But then in the Raiders game and in the Cowboys game, they stop playing in the fourth quarter and let them right back in it. And I just want to see them kind of continue that strategy continue that enthusiasm and power through all four quarters rather than let teams back in, because I do think they have the talent to compete with this Buffalo team. And in a lot of ways, they may even be slightly better. But if they don't come out and play 60 minutes of solid football, I don't think they'll win this game. And so this is going to be a big test for this Baltimore Ravens team if they can actually come out and play hard for 60 minutes.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's going to be a tough game for both these teams here, and kind of diving deeper into that. But first, though, if you do want to put a couple bucks down on this game, check the link down below in the description box. BetUS has a bunch of great promotions going on right now for first-time players. So take a look at this game and all the other games within the week 4 of the NFL season. But I would think, too, kind of as come kickoff time, I think the Bills will be favorite. It is super tough to go and win on the road in the NFL. I mean, at the end of the day, these are all still professionals, and anything can happen. But I think they'll probably be 3-point favorites, but you never know kind of on where things are going, because Ravens coming off a win, and I think they did look better. Well, they absolutely looked better because they won, but I thought they looked a little bit better even in week 2. But the defense just fell apart to the Raiders team. They almost did again against the Cowboys. And that, to me, I think is going to be just the overall matchup is how these defenses play over 60 minutes. I don't have as much questions about the Bills' defense, especially long-term, because I think what really makes this defense successful is going to be that defensive line. It feels like they just have so many guys that they can rotate through. Provide constant pressure. And this Baltimore Ravens offensive line, there's a lot of talent, a lot of guys that I like on there, but they are still younger, still trying to kind of mesh together. And so playing early on in the season, just how are they still going to be able to kind of take those strides? Something similar, though, on the flip side, that this Bills offensive line feels like they're dominant. I mean, James Cook looks amazing. Mainly due, I think, this offensive line gets such a good push. They protect Josh Allen, and that really opens things up in the passing game where I think, to your point that you mentioned earlier, where they weren't making like the mistakes. Josh Allen wasn't making too many throws that didn't need to be made. Was because it feels like they're not forcing too many things. I think a lot of that does come from the transition to offensive coordinator Joe Brady, which happened halfway through the season last year. And they just look like a much more well-balanced, much more relaxed team with a lot more motion. Love seeing, I don't know how many times you see Khalil Shakur or Dalton Kincaid cutting across the middle while all these pieces are moving everywhere. The defenses are just getting confused. And it's going to be a tough test for Kyle Hamilton and the entire Ravens defense to just make sure that they can do their jobs to try and limit as many explosive plays as possible from this Bills team, because there's not too many deep shots that they take. That's one of the things I noticed is they'll send guys deep with Keon Coleman with his speed, but then a lot of times he just dumped it off to James Cook because teams got to respect the deep ball. And so James Cook's right there, then boom, 6 yards right there. So this Bills offense is extremely well balanced. I think that's what makes them tough to go up against. On the flip side is the Ravens. They are definitely more of a run-first team, and they don't have as many, I think, receiving weapons as receiving options. I think that the Bills do as well, just because the Bills have more of that motion-type offense. While the Ravens, on the other hand, Zay Flowers is going to be their guy. Mark Andrews is going to be their guy. Zay Likely's good, yes, but it seems much more manufactured to get those guys the ball than with something like the Bills, where their motto is who's going to eat today. Some guys are going to have a great game. Khalil Shakur had a great game today. Keon Coleman got a touchdown. But last week, Keon Coleman, I don't even think got a pass because it was everybody else. It was James Cook's day last week. I think there's just a lot more avenues for the Bills to be more balanced than I think the Ravens offense can be.
Yeah, and I still think the Ravens can be balanced. You look – I think it's just going to be in a different way. If Derrick Henry gets 25 touches, Lamar Jackson's going to get 10 to 15 carries also. They're going to throw the ball another 20 to 25 times. And then at that point, what does that offensive production look like coming together? And then, this is a Ravens team. They're going to be very efficient on offense, but they're going to rely a little bit on this defense to definitely get some stops because they do not want to have to win games 38-35. Whereas Buffalo is, if you want to win games 38-35, that's fine. If you want to win games 13-10, that's also fine with this Buffalo team. So let's go ahead and get into predictions here. I think it's kind of maybe been a little obvious on who we're going with, but I'll kick it off with the Buffalo Bills. You said it. I think this is a well-balanced team. Josh Allen seems to be playing the best football I think I've seen him play. And one of my favorite things just about watching them is this year specifically is I felt like in years past, they've like forced Josh Allen to be like this elite playmaker and to get outside the pocket and to do all these things. And yes, he's very good at that. However, that's just not a sustainable offensive game plan. Is like, we're just going to give the ball to Josh and have him create. This is the NFL after all. Like, there's 11 guys on the other side that get paid millions and millions of dollars to stop Josh Allen from doing that. And so the fact that they have actually allowed him to do that in certain occasions and then still run an offensive system around that, I think makes his ability to go and create when the play does break down that much more enhanced because, well, if the play that they designed doesn't work, then he's scrambling. The play is not designed for him to scramble and go and find an open receiver. So I really like that twist. This defense is playing well, and I think the Bills are going to come out victorious in this one.
Yeah. So I'm also going to go with the Bills as well. And so I know statistically the Ravens, I think, have the most yards than any other offense. I think they're second in overall rushing. But the Bills are honestly not too far behind there. I think they're just average overall statistically. But they also they've kind of blown out a lot of their games so far, and where the offensive production in the second half has been kind of unnecessary and unneeded. I just think that they're firing on all cylinders. I think the Ravens can absolutely come in and win this game. It is going to be at home. But I think over 4 quarters, I think the Bills are going to be a little bit more consistent, a little bit more balanced. And if the Ravens do get behind, it's going to take away that running capabilities, and they're going to become more predictable where they're going to have to throw the ball more. And it's kind of going back to my earlier point. It feels like with any of the receivers with the Bills, the way the offense is flowing, that anybody can go and get open, can go and get catches. But with the Ravens, it just seems tougher to kind of have that free flowing offense, especially too when they get behind. And so Lamar Jackson is extremely athletic, and so that's where he gives them a huge advantage to stay in games, especially when they are behind and keep plays going as well. But I think over 4 quarters, I think this Bills team is just, I think they're top tier. And so I think the Ravens are top tier as well, but they're still just trying to figure out just a couple of things at this point in the season. So most definitely not the last time I think these two teams are going to play this year. But I'd be surprised if we see these two teams playing in January at some point.
Yeah. So we are both taking the Buffalo Bills in this matchup. Let's go ahead and wrap this one up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. It is the best way to help out the channel. While you're down there, go ahead and leave a comment on who you think is going to come out ahead. Will it be the Buffalo Bills? Will it be the Baltimore Ravens? And on that, we'll see you guys next time.